Welcome back everybody to yet another episode, and in today's episode, guys, we're going to be talking about hunting the rut. Now the rut is right around the corner here, guys. Deer should be pre-rutting in your area. I know they are in mine, but like I said, today we're going to be talking about those tips. My area here, I hunt Midwestern Wisconsin, and the deer rut around the same time every year. It's usually the second weekend of November. Kind of that second week is where they really start to chase and really seek out does. But right now they're kind of in the pre-rut. I've talked to some buddies this past that hunted this past weekend. Unfortunately, I didn't get to get out, but like they said, things have been slow. They've seen bucks moving around, but they haven't seen any chasing or really cruising times, which just goes to show you that the pre-rut is hitting pretty hard. Last week when I shot, or not last weekend, but the weekend before, I shot and hit a big 10-point. Unfortunately, didn't bring them down. If you guys have not seen that episode, you can click the link down below in the description. It'll take you to that video. But a nice big buck. He's probably out chasing does right now. But I didn't have any action till a little after 9 o'clock. I rattled, grunted. 30 seconds later, a little 6-point buck comes in. So, and then that 20 minutes later, that big buck came through. So it wasn't until later in the day that I seen some action, but it's just some bucks kind of moving around, I think, trying to maybe work some scrapes and stuff like that. Definitely some pre-rut action. But like I said, we're going to be talking about tips for hunting the rut. It's right around the corner here, and they're definitely going to start cruising and chasing does, and does are going to start coming into heat. But like I said, it's going to happen roughly the same time every year, especially if you're hunting a specific area. It just happens usually, in my experience, the same time every year. So that leads me into my first tip now, guys, and that's going to be all day sits. If you guys can sit all day, it's going to be absolutely a game changer. Now, it's going to be cold out there. It's going to be really cold, and sitting all day can be a challenge. It can be very tiring, really take a toll on you. So you need to pack the necessities. Bring some water with you guys. Bring snacks with yourself. Stay warm. Bring heat packs. Whatever you can do to stay warm. Most mature bucks are shot between 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock. Now, basically, if you're going to hunt till 2 o'clock, you might as well hunt the evening as well. So, in my opinion, sitting all day is almost essential when hunting the rut. Anything can happen at any given time. Bucks can come cruising through at any time. Most mature bucks that I've seen in the stand and had opportunities with have came around, between 10 and 2. I've had some come in at noon. I've had some come cruising through at 1. Last week, that big 10-point came through around 10. So whatever you can do to sit in the stand all day, and that also is going to be having a confident setup is really going to help with that. But sitting all day, you can have no action like I did when I had a shot on that big one. I had no action whatsoever, and then all of a sudden, it just picked up out of nowhere. So sitting all day is huge. Now, one little tip for sitting all day, I have a heater bodysuit, guys, and I am gonna do a separate video here later this week before the weekend talking about tips for sitting all day. But heater bodysuit, guys, this thing just is godsend for sitting all day. Super nice. But if you don't have one, just try to do your best to stay warm. Second tip for hunting the rut, guys, is do not, and I repeat, do not be afraid to rattle and grunt, guys. Deer are vocal this time of the year. Definitely fighting, definitely sparring with one another for dominance for these does. Now, I always carry this rattle bag with me. I love rattling and grunting. I've rattled in quite a few bucks and grunted them in, especially if you have a mature buck in the area. Rattling, grunting, raking leaves, raking the tree, anything you can do to, make the realism effect that there's bucks fighting or there's a buck in the area trying to assert its dominance is going to be huge. Big mature bucks will definitely key in on that. Now, when I had a shot at that big 10-point, you guys seen in that video, I rattled and I grunted, and within 30 seconds had that little 6 or 8-pointer come right in. First standing up, he wanted to know what was going on. He responded to rattling and grunting really well. Mature bucks, same thing, they'll respond to it. Whether or not that big mature buck, that big 10 that I got a shot on, came into the rattling and grunting, I don't know if he did, but he came in about 20 minutes after that, and he could have. But he did come through, and I've had a lot of success rattling and grunting, so please don't be afraid to rattle, grunt. It's not gonna hurt anything. Deer are vocal this time of the year, so you might as well give it a shot. The next thing I want to talk to you guys about is weather. Now, this is a big tip, is weather, hunting weather. Big cold fronts pushing through. Not that it's going to make the deer or the does go into estrus or go into heat any sooner, but big mature bucks love good cold weather. It's just optimal weather for them to be cruising in. right now, this weekend, this up and coming weekend, which I'm expecting to be a big weekend for us here in Wisconsin, the weather here is going to be dropping down into the 30s and even down into the 20s. It's going to be cold. Staying warm is going to be a big thing, but it's going to be perfect weather for those big mature bucks to be on their feet cruising for does, scent checking beds and all that. So paying attention to weather and those fronts coming through, it can be a really big help, especially if you can only hunt weekends. Picking your weekends of when you want to hunt. Definitely this time of the year when those big cold fronts push in, things really start to cool off, really helps out. Now let's talk a little bit about hunting strategy. Now I listed some tips that I think are essential, sitting all day, rattling and grunting, and paying attention to the weather. Now some hunting strategy here. Now you're gonna want to look for funnels or just, like places in between two bedding areas. I hunt a lot of hill country in my area, so I get to use the ridges and whatnot, which can also be tough with the wind. But with that being said, I also have access to funnel points on those ridges from one bedding to the other. When I got a shot at that big 10-pointer, I was hunting on top of a big ridge top that I knew there was bedding where this buck was probably bedding at, and I knew I'm right in between in a good funnel where things bottleneck down and to another bedding area. So if you can find those funnels, those good high percentage areas where deer just have to run through that area, especially in hill country, deer will run the leeward side of the ridge from where the wind's blowing, and that's a great spot to be when looking for deer cruising back and forth from bedding. A big thing, guys, is using trail cams during the rut. Now, it never hurts to throw out a trail cam on a fresh scrape or a fresh deer sign and just see if there's any bucks moving in that area. Trail cams around this time of the year can be huge intel for you guys, seeing where the buck's coming from, where he's going to, especially on a scrape, if he's coming to the scrape during daytime hours, things like that. Now, if you find a scrape that's on top of a ridge top, where I'm personally going to be hunting this weekend, I have a trail cam out there and there's a scrape that is on top of the ridge top. Now I can guarantee you, since it's on top of the ridge, it was most likely made during the day. A lot of that stuff that you see down in the valleys or down below those ridges is definitely usually made during nighttime hours. Not all the time, but the majority of the time it's done at night. But since this is on top of the bluff, it's a really good sign for me. So I put my trail cam there and I'm excited to see what's on there. But trail cams can be huge for you guys, especially if you're hunting one side of the property, you're hunting somewhere on public land, wherever it may be. Using that trail cam on fresh sign to see what those bucks are doing is going to lead to success, because then you can look at that fresh sign, see where you need to be hunting. Maybe he's coming to that scrape during the daytime and you can go ahead and hunt that scrape. So using trail cams to your advantage this time of the year is definitely a must do. I always have like 2 to 3 trail cams out and I'm always trying to check them. Usually when I go to hunt a certain stand, I'll try to check them and see what those deer are doing. Now that kind of leads me into my next thing with your trail cams, is seeing where the does are at. Sometimes you may have a trail cam in an area where there's not a lot of does. Sometimes you might find a doe on your trail cam with bucks with that doe, so you know it's a hot doe. So you know, paying attention to where the does are is also a big thing during the rut, because those does are definitely going to come into estrus at some point. So if you know where the does are at, you know, bucks are eventually going to start cruising. So if you have an area where does are moving through, you know that does are going to be moving through that area or moving to feed, you know, at night, because does are going to generally stick to kind of the same, you know, pattern of feeding, and that's definitely going to bring bucks with them. My last tip for you guys, and this is really more hunting strategy. This one is kind of high risk, high reward situation. Now, this is gonna be hunting a stand on an off wind. Now, I know this may sound crazy. Hunting deer, you know, you wanna wait for the right wind, but sometimes it's just go time. Sometimes you have a buck in an area that you know he's there. You know he's there, and waiting for the perfect wind may not be the best opportunity for you guys. Now, I know there's plenty of guys that are gonna tell me you're crazy, you gotta hunt it on the right wind, man. Do not hunt on an off wind. Like I said, it's high risk, high reward. There's been times where it's getting down to just, it's go time. You know, gun season's right around the corner. I've got only so much time to bow hunt in the woods, and I have a stand. I know there's a big buck in the area, and sometimes hunting that stand on an off wind and getting aggressive with your tactics can help. Last year, I shot, you know, a smaller buck, not super huge, but there was a bigger buck that I did see, but I was dinking around on my phone, and by the time I seen him, it was too late. He had cruised by. It was my fault, but I was hunting on an off wind. Sometimes hunting on an off wind, you can catch that buck off guard. Not all the times are they paying attention to the wind, especially during the rut. Bucks definitely, mature bucks are definitely very keen. They're that big for a reason, but sometimes during the rut time, they're not paying attention as much. So you can get aggressive and you can hunt those off winds. There you have it, guys. That is kind of my biggest hunting tips for the rut, hunting strategy, if you will. If you guys have any other tips or strategies that you like to use, drop them down in the comments below. Would love to see them. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up if you did. Remember to subscribe. At 5,000 subs, we're doing a rod and reel giveaway along with a bunch of other tackles. So if you guys are interested in that, all you gotta do is subscribe to the channel to be entered in that giveaway. But like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode, and we will see you guys on the next one.